You ever stand in your own kitchen and suddenly feel like you've walked into someone else's life? That was me. Tuesday night, 6:14 p.m., holding a receipt for a $387 dress I didn't recognize and heels from a boutique I couldn't afford. The name at the top was hers. Fallon, my fiancée. The woman who told me she was cutting back on extras and needed space to breathe this month. I found the receipt in the back pocket of her coat. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for the USB drive she borrowed. But the receipt fell out like it wanted to be found. Like it had been waiting. She told me the party was mandatory, corporate only, just the usual team-building buzzwords. No plus ones. I nodded and smiled like a good fiancé. I even picked up her favorite sushi after work so she wouldn't have to eat canapés all night. But standing there in our kitchen, the one I remodeled myself with YouTube videos and burnt fingertips, I just stared at that crumpled slip of paper and felt my throat tighten. She left for the party at 7:06. Hair curled, makeup heavier than usual, perfume like a warning bell. She didn't kiss me goodbye, just grabbed her phone, muttered, "Don't wait up," and disappeared into a rideshare like she was running late to something far more exciting than me. I waited anyway. I sat on the couch and watched the time slip past like a leaking faucet. Midnight. 1 a.m. 1:42. That's when the door clicked open. She tiptoed in barefoot, heels in hand. Her dress strap was twisted, mascara smudged under one eye. She reeked of whiskey and something worse, guilt. "Sorry," she whispered. "My phone died. Long night." I didn't say a word. I just watched her float past me like I wasn't real. Like I was the ghost in her story now. But ghosts? We see everything. The next morning didn't begin with answers. It began with silence. The kind that sticks to your skin like humidity, thick and unwanted. Fallon was already in the shower when I woke up, the water scalding hot, just the way she liked it, like she needed to boil off the night. I sat up in bed, staring at her side of the closet left half open. That dress. I'd never seen it before last night. Midnight blue. Backless. Sequined along the sides like it belonged in a music video, not at a professional function. When she got out, wrapped in her towel, she barely looked at me. I asked her if the party went well. She said, "Yeah, just the usual stuff." Then she mumbled something about being exhausted and locked herself in the bathroom again to do her skincare. That would have been the end of it, the lie, nicely packaged, if not for what I found on the floor of the car when I left for work. One of her earrings. Not just any earring. The expensive pair she only wore on special nights. She told me once they made her feel like a Bond girl. This one was snapped in half. The back was missing. There was a faint smear of dark foundation across the front and a single strand of unfamiliar hair stuck to the latch. Short, dark, coarse. Fallon's hair is light brown, straight, shoulder length. This was not her hair. I sat in the driver's seat with the broken earring in one hand and the receipt from last night still folded in my wallet. And my brain, it just disconnected. I went to work like a sleepwalker. Sat in my cubicle, answered emails, smiled at the receptionist. But I wasn't there. I was standing in that kitchen again, watching her say, "Don't wait up," realizing now how those words weren't a warning. They were a shield. A way to make sure I wouldn't see her come back looking like she did. By the time I got home, Fallon was already on the couch with her laptop and a glass of wine. She looked up and smiled like we were just two people living the same script. I asked her if she had fun. "Of course," she said, without even blinking. "It was just drinks and dancing." I pressed. "With who?" She laughed, light and casual. "My team. You don't know them, babe." Then I asked about the dress. I told her it looked new. Expensive. She shrugged. "Rented it." Lie. I knew it was a lie because the receipt still sat in my glove compartment. But I didn't show it. Instead, I asked her where the other earring was. That's when she paused. Just for a second. Barely noticeable. But I saw it, the glitch. The pause in the programming. She reached for her wine. Must have lost it. "You mean at the party?" "Yeah," she said too fast. "On the dance floor, probably." She didn't know I'd already seen it. Bent, smeared, with someone else's DNA tangled in it. That was the moment everything inside me changed. Not rage. Not sadness. Something colder. A kind of clarity. Because you can't argue with evidence. You can only decide what to do with it. And me? I decided to stay quiet. For now. The problem with being quiet is that people mistake it for ignorance. They think you're slow, unobservant, easy to fool. But silence isn't weakness, it's storage. and I was storing everything. Over the next few days, Fallon acted like nothing had happened. She started humming around the apartment again, sending me Instagram reels of cats knocking things over, asking about dinner plans. It was rehearsed domesticity, fake peace. But her eyes didn't match the smile she wore, and her phone never left her hand. She took it with her to the bathroom, even to the laundry room, something she'd never done before. If I got up in the middle of the night, the light of her screen would flash under the duvet. She claimed it was work emails, but I knew better. It was on a Wednesday night, 4 days after the party, when it all shifted. I was folding laundry in the bedroom. Fallon had left her coat on the floor again. I reached to hang it up, and her phone buzzed from inside the pocket. I didn't touch it. I swear. I didn't unlock it. I just read the notification on the lock screen. Cade, work, one voice message. That name again. Cade, the guy from the dance floor. The guy with his hands on her waist like he had permission. The notification vanished after a few seconds. She must have deleted it remotely or had auto-hide enabled. But the name stuck in my brain like splinters under fingernails. That night, she went to bed early. Claimed she had a migraine. I waited until her breathing evened out, then went to the couch, opened my laptop, and searched everything. Cade worked in the same department. Creative lead. 5 years at the company. Public Instagram with way too many shirtless photos and gym selfies captioned with things like grind now, shine later. Fallon followed him. Liked almost every post. Especially the one from last summer. Him standing on a balcony in Tulum, holding 2 drinks, and the caption, "She likes tequila more than me, but I'll take what I can get." One of the likes? Fallon. And the comment? "Don't undersell yourself." My stomach twisted. I didn't recognize the woman writing that. Not because it was vulgar or even flirty, but because it sounded effortless. Like she'd been doing this for a while. The next morning, she kissed me on the forehead and said she was heading to an off-site meeting across town. I asked which hotel they were using for the event. She hesitated, just a second too long, then said, "The Waverly." I smiled, nodded. Said I hoped it went well. 10 minutes after she left, I called the Waverly. There was no corporate booking for her company. I asked if a Cade had checked in. The receptionist paused, then said, "I'm sorry, we can't give out guest information." I thanked her, hung up, and felt my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to claw its way out of my chest. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I just waited. When she came home, I watched her closely. She didn't look panicked or disheveled. Just practiced. Like someone who'd told the same story so many times, she didn't have to think anymore. I asked her, "How was the Waverly?" She blinked, then smiled. "Oh, great. Long, but productive." That was the moment I knew. She didn't forget the lie. She recycled it. And that's when I stopped playing along. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I didn't accuse her, raise my voice, or ask the obvious question. I let her lie, and I watched how easily it rolled off her tongue. I think that's what broke me the most, how practiced it all felt. Like deception had become muscle memory for her. But I wasn't sitting idle. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I opened her laptop. She always assumed I wouldn't dare, and normally, she'd be right. But trust is a funny thing. Once it's cracked, it doesn't splinter slowly. It shatters like glass. She had a browser window left open in the background. Nothing suspicious at first. Pinterest boards, a hotel booking site, a quote from some wedding blog about being present in love. But buried in the tab history was a file hosting link. She had downloaded a zip file around 2 a.m. 2 nights ago, when I thought she was asleep. I opened it. Inside were 3 video files. 2 were basic work presentation clips, staff stuff, nothing unusual. But the third was a screen recording from her phone. It was a voice note. Cade's voice. "Still can't stop thinking about you in that dress. Everyone was watching. Fallon, but you danced like you wanted me to touch you right there in front of them. You're driving me crazy. I know you're with him, but last night, that wasn't just fun. That was real. Text me when he's asleep." My vision blurred. My fingers trembled so hard I almost dropped the laptop. I closed it gently, not because I was calm, but because I didn't trust what I'd do if I let my hands move on instinct. I sat at the kitchen table for over an hour, staring at my reflection in the black surface of my dead phone screen, wondering how long this had been going on, wondering if she ever loved me at all, or if I was just her stability, her backup plan, the guy who remembered to buy oat milk and change the Wi-Fi password when she forgot. That day at work, I wasn't really there. I kept replaying the voice note in my head, the way he said, when he's asleep. Like I was an obstacle, a ghost in their affair. And the more I thought about it, the more disgusted I became with myself. Not for trusting her, but for trusting my silence to protect me. So I made a decision. If she was going to lie to my face, then I would gather every truth behind her back. I used her Apple ID to log in through my work computer. I watched the live location feature. At 7:12 p.m., she texted me, running late, last-minute client meeting. Her icon was pulsing in real time. She wasn't at her office. She wasn't anywhere near it. She was at a downtown boutique hotel, 3 blocks from the Waverly. Not the same hotel, which meant she knew I might check. She'd adjusted her lie. I screenshotted everything. Her location, her message, the timestamp. Then, for the first time in days, I stopped feeling helpless. Because I knew where she was. And more importantly, I knew who she was with. But I didn't go there. Not yet. No dramatic confrontation. No kicked-in doors. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of tears or betrayal. I wasn't going to interrupt their little fantasy. Instead, I scheduled a meeting of my own, one she'd never see coming. By the time she got home that night, I had already begun quietly unraveling the life we built together, thread by thread, corner by corner, drawer by drawer. She walked through the door at 10:34 p.m., casually humming a song I didn't recognize, heels in one hand, her phone in the other. She didn't look guilty. She looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Sorry, the meeting ran over, she mumbled, kicking off her shoes without looking up. You still awake? I didn't answer. Just nodded from the couch, acting like I hadn't been watching her GPS icon jump around a part of town where her company had 0 offices. She walked straight to the bathroom and turned on the faucet, loud, like it was covering something. I heard the rustling of her dress coming off. The familiar sound of the perfume bottle she kept only for special nights, clicking shut. I sat in silence, my heart thudding like a slow drum, eyes fixed on the framed photo of us in Iceland above the mantel. The one where I looked like I'd won the lottery, and she looked like she was already halfway out the door. The moment she went to bed, I got to work. First, I called my best friend Bryce, the only person who had ever openly said he didn't trust Fallon. I always brushed him off. He was blunt, too blunt, and I took it as jealousy or cynicism. But now I realized he had been the only one paying attention. You good? He asked the second he picked up. No hello. No nonsense. I need a storage unit, I said, my voice quieter than I expected. Say no more, he replied. You moving out? Not yet, I said, but I will be. Quietly. The next 2 days were a blur. I created backups of every important file on our shared devices. Scanned my documents. Removed my name from anything I didn't legally need to be tied to anymore. I opened a separate checking account and diverted my direct deposit. I used my lunch breaks to secure a furnished studio apartment on a month-to-month lease. Nothing flashy, just enough. And all the while, I acted normal. I cooked dinner. I asked about her day. I even listened to her describe client stress, like she hadn't spent the last few evenings wrapped up in bedsheets that weren't ours. Every time she lied, I nodded along like a man too dumb to notice, because that's who she thought she was engaged to. The quiet guy, the loyal one, the one who never asked questions. On the 3rd night, she told me she was going to her mom's for the weekend. She's not feeling well, Fallon said. I'll be back Sunday night. I wanted to laugh. It was so lazy. The lie didn't even bother with creativity anymore. Just something easy enough for me to accept and forget. But I didn't forget. I wrote it down. Time-stamped it. Tracked her the moment she left. She didn't go to her mom's. She went back to the same hotel. And this time, she stayed the night. I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor of our bedroom, my bedroom for just a few more hours, and stared at the ring box tucked into the back of my drawer. The one I planned to use again after the wedding for a vow renewal gift. Fallon once told me she liked the idea of promising again, when you already know what marriage feels like. Back then, I thought it was romantic. Now it just sounded cruel. That Sunday night, before she returned, I packed the last of my clothes and loaded them into Bryce's truck. I didn't take everything, just what I needed to breathe again. I left behind the dishes we bought together, the throw blanket she always hogged, the copy of The Little Prince she gave me for my birthday and never read herself. It all stayed. Let her keep the illusions. But I didn't leave the ring. No. That, I placed carefully on the center of our dining table. And next to it, I left a printed copy of the voice note, Cade's words in black and white, transcribed with timestamps, every disgusting syllable preserved forever. I didn't leave a goodbye. She didn't deserve one. Fallon didn't call that night. Not once. And I knew why. She thought she still had control of the narrative. She assumed I was sitting at home, none the wiser, maybe reheating leftovers or watching a documentary to pass the time. The same passive, dependable man who wouldn't dare question her carefully constructed lies. What she didn't realize was that the moment she slipped that second keycard into the hotel door, the illusion she'd been living in started bleeding out beneath her heels. I spent my first night in the new apartment listening to the fridge hum and the clock tick like a taunt. It was small, one room, white walls, a mattress on the floor, and a lamp that flickered when I used the microwave. But it was mine. No more pretending to sleep beside someone rehearsing bedtime stories for another man. No more watching her hide behind meetings and client dinners. Just quiet. Cold. Honest. The next morning, my phone finally buzzed. It was her. Fallon, hey. Just got back. Place is freezing. You forget to leave the heat on again? LOL. Also, where are you? 2 messages. No missed calls. No concern. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another message. Fallon. Curtis, seriously, did you take the car? And where's your laptop? You didn't leave it at work again, did you? She still didn't get it. She hadn't found the ring yet. I imagined her moving through the apartment, confused at first, annoyed, maybe muttering under her breath. Checking the closets. The kitchen. Her voice rising as she called my name into the emptiness. She would have looked for clues, a note, a letter, a passive-aggressive post-it. But I hadn't left a note. I'd left the truth. It wasn't until 9:17 a.m. that she found it. I know because that's when the third message came in, unhinged, rushed, and a lot less composed. Fallon, what is this? No question mark. Just 4 words like a brick through glass. She attached a photo of the printed transcript. Cade's voice, now turned into cold black text. It sat beside the ring box, exactly where I'd placed them both, her confession and the symbol of everything she'd destroyed. Again, I didn't answer. She called. Twice. I watched the screen light up and fade out. Then she texted. Fallon, Curtis, please. This isn't what it looks like. You're blowing everything out of proportion. Just come home so we can talk. Fallon, I didn't cheat. I made a mistake. That message was a joke. We were drunk. He was being stupid. I didn't even reply to him. You can check. Fallon, you always do this. You shut down and make assumptions. Don't throw away everything over something you think happened. That was the pivot. She'd entered the denial stage, quickly followed by projection, making me the problem. Classic. I still didn't respond. The next message came an hour later. This one longer, messier, full of fragmented thoughts and passive blame. She used every tactic in the book: nostalgia, guilt, false vulnerability. Told me she'd never felt seen like I made her feel. Said she was scared and confused, and that she didn't even know why she flirted with Cade. That maybe she was testing herself, trying to feel something again. But the worst line? It didn't mean anything, Curtis. Not like what we have. I stared at that sentence for a long time, as if rereading it would change the weight of those words. She wanted me to believe that the betrayal didn't count because it wasn't romantic. That if it was just lust, or attention, or testing herself, it should somehow hurt less. But it didn't hurt less. It hurt differently. It was the realization that I'd been a placeholder, a reliable default, the quiet man who bought flowers without reason and made her tea when she had cramps, the man who was there for her while she auditioned for something more exciting behind my back. And now that I was gone, she wasn't mourning the love. She was mourning the comfort, the cushion I provided, the man who let her shine without ever asking if he was still visible in the reflection. She called again later that evening, left a voicemail this time. Her voice cracked halfway through. I played it once, deleted it immediately after. That night, I finally slept. Deep, dreamless sleep. No lies beneath the sheets. No lipstick on the pillow. No phone screen lighting up with someone else's name. Just silence. And for the first time in weeks, it didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like peace. I thought the silence would be enough. I thought Fallon would see the ring, the transcript, the empty closet, and finally understand that I was done, that there was nothing left to salvage. But I had underestimated one thing. Fallon didn't just hate losing me. She hated losing the version of me that let her get away with everything. The next morning, I woke up to 37 unread messages. Her desperation had turned manic. She texted everything from half-hearted apologies to veiled threats about ruining a good man if I didn't come back and fix this together. She said I was abandoning her, that I was cruel for walking away without a conversation. The irony was suffocating. She'd been having silent conversations with Cade for weeks, maybe months, yet I was the villain now, simply for choosing not to scream. Then came the email. It wasn't an apology. It was a performance. A long, winding explanation of how she had been feeling invisible lately, and how Cade had made her feel desired for the first time in years. She wrote about pressure, about fear, about losing herself in the expectations of what we were building. But what stood out to me was this line. You didn't notice I was slipping, Curtis. You didn't even ask if I was happy. That's when I snapped. Because I did ask. I asked every time I offered to cook when she was tired. Every time I massaged her shoulders after work without expecting anything in return. Every time I backed off during arguments, thinking space was better than escalation. I asked in my actions, the same ones she stopped noticing long before her hands found Cade's. I didn't respond. She showed up 2 days later. I came home from work, walked into the hallway of my building, and there she was, sitting on the floor outside my apartment door like a stranger locked out of her own life. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, hoodie draped over her knees like a blanket. The sight should have made me feel something. Maybe sympathy, maybe heartbreak. But I felt nothing. She stood up the second she saw me, eyes wide like I was the one who had disappeared without a trace. Curtis, she breathed, voice trembling. Please, just talk to me. I unlocked the door. Didn't invite her in. She stepped forward anyway. I don't care what you read. What you saw. That night, it didn't mean anything. I was drunk. I didn't plan it. I didn't even think it would go that far. I turned and looked at her for the first time in days. Really looked. She wasn't the confident woman who used to glide into rooms with a smirk and 1,000 excuses. She was small, uncertain, shaking. Then why did it happen more than once? I asked. She blinked. And there it was, the pause. That millisecond of delay before the next lie, where the brain scrambles for a version of the truth that doesn't incriminate. She whispered. I didn't know how to stop. That was honest. Finally, she leaned against the doorframe like her legs were failing her. I miss you, she said. I don't miss him. I miss you. And maybe that would have worked, once. Maybe the Curtis she remembered, the one who forgave too easily, who craved peace more than self-respect, would have let her back in. But that version of me, he was gone, buried beneath all the nights I stayed up wondering why she didn't love me the same way I loved her. I know you miss me, I said, but you didn't fight for me when it mattered. You fought for your fantasy, and now you're trying to drag me back into it. She started crying. Loud, raw, ugly tears. The kind that shake a person's whole body. I'd never seen her cry like that, not even at her father's funeral. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't reach out. I let her feel it. Because for once, she had to. Eventually, I told her to leave. And she did, but not before saying something I'll never forget. You're not strong, Curtis. You're just bitter. No, I wasn't bitter. I was free. It's been 4 weeks since Fallon stood outside my door and cried like she was mourning a life she never truly wanted. For weeks since I looked her in the eye and chose myself for the first time in years. It wasn't easy. I'd be lying if I said there weren't nights I stared at the ceiling and wondered what would have happened if I had just forgiven her. If I'd swallowed the pain like I always did and let things slide back into place. But that would have been survival, not healing. And I'm done surviving someone else's chaos. The studio I moved into has become more than just 4 walls. It's my reset button. I've got a routine now, nothing exciting, but solid. I started cooking again, not because I have to, but because I enjoy it. I finally signed up for that photography class I kept putting off. On weekends, I go to this tiny farmer's market and talk to strangers who have no idea what I've been through. And that anonymity is oddly comforting. Most importantly, I feel like myself again. Not the edited version I used to become around Fallon. Not the man walking on eggshells. Just Curtis. Awkward, overthinking, emotionally honest Curtis. And for the first time in forever, that's enough. Fallon texted me one last time 2 weeks ago. It said, I saw a photo of you smiling. I didn't realize how rare that used to be. I'm sorry, truly. I hope you're happy. I didn't reply. She already got her answer. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see someone I recognize, not someone fading behind someone else's spotlight. The quiet isn't empty anymore. It's peaceful, like walking through snow before anyone else touches it. Clean, still, free. And maybe one day I'll fall in love again. Maybe I won't. But I know this much. I'll never let someone make me feel invisible in my own life again. Thank you for watching Reddit Confessions. If you've ever been in a situation where choosing yourself felt like the hardest thing you've ever done, drop your story in the comments. We'd love to hear it. And remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Until next time.